So we glean little bits and pieces here and there in her stupid speeches, which are completely curated. And she dropped this doozy on, was it Saturday, where she stole Trump's proposal on tips for service workers. It was Saturday in Vegas. All right, so first, I'm going to give you what she said on Saturday in Vegas, where she slipped in a new proposal, allegedly of hers.
When I am president, we will continue our fight for working families of America. Including to raise the minimum wage and eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Oh, you don't say. So she stole that from Trump, which he tweeted out, and he was 100% right. It was his proposal, and he made it months ago. And he explained how he came up with the idea when he spoke at the Republican National Convention. Listen.
We're having dinner at a beautiful restaurant in the Trump building on the Strip, and it's a great building, and the waitress comes over. How's everything going? A really nice person. How's everything? Oh, sir, it's so tough. The government's after me all the time on tips. I said, well, they give you cash. Would they be able to find him? She said, actually, and I didn't know this, she said, very little cash is given. It's all put right on the check. And they come in and they take so much of our money, it's just ridiculous. But I said to her, let me just ask you a question. Would you be happy if you had no tax on tips? She said, what a great idea. I got my information from a very smart waitress. That's better than spending millions of dollars. And everybody loves it. Waitresses and caddies and drivers.
Now, this reminds me of the second Working Girl reference in a week on this show. Working Girl. When Melanie Griffith's character, who was a secretary working for Sigourney Weaver, who then goes on some fancy vacation, breaks her leg and gets laid up, and Melanie tries to pose as her boss. She came up with an idea while posing as the boss for this merger between Trask Industries and this other industry. And the guy loved it. And she was putting together this big deal. But then Sigourney Weaver, the boss, comes back from the broken leg. And she steps in and tries to claim this deal as her own. And Mr. Trask figures out that this was not Sigourney's idea. This was the idea of the lowly secretary. And he goes to each of them and asks in his investigation to figure out who deserves credit, how did you come up with this idea? And we've cut a clip.
This is Forbes. It's just your basic article about how you were looking to expand into broadcasting, right? Okay, now, the same day, I'll never forget this. I'm reading page 6 of the Post, and there's this item on Bobby Stein, the radio talk show guy who does all those gross jokes about Ethiopia and the Betty Ford Center. Well, anyway, he's hosting this charity auction that night, Real Blue Bloods, and won't that be funny? Now I turn the page to Susie, who does the society stuff, and there's this picture of your daughter. See, a nice picture. And she's helping to organize the charity ball. So I started to think, Trask Radio. Trask Radio. And then I hooked up with Jack, and he came on board with Metro, and so now here we are.
Well, Miss Parker, let me ask you a question. How did you come up with the idea for Trask to buy up Metro?
How did well, let's see. Well, you know, I would have to check my files. I can't recall exactly.
Miss Parker is Kamala Harris. I mean, I'm sorry, but I nailed it. That's the perfect analogy for what we just saw. It's ridiculous, Emily.
Also, that was encyclopedia level knowledge of the Working Girl plot.
I love that movie.
Everything, the detail. But yeah, I mean, this is another great example of media coverage. They would be going crazy if this had happened in the other direction. And by the way, Trump's story about how he came up with that proposal, it sounds plausible. It sounds believable to me. I don't know that it's true. Just because Donald Trump says it doesn't mean that it's true. It sounds plausible. Either way, if he were a Democrat, one big storyline of this election would have been how he came up with that idea, because it's really brilliant and it's a very powerful political narrative. And that's obviously why Kamala Harris is cribbing it. I mean, in Nevada, this goes a very, very long way towards, appealing to working class voters who are hugely supportive of Donald Trump more than they have been for other Republican candidates. So it's really, really smart. And the media at the time, some outlets legitimately tried to undercut it and say, this is just nonsense. It doesn't mean that much to workers. It won't make that big of a difference. And now Kamala Harris does it. And people are like, wow, this is so smart. Where did it come from? So it's just like another perfect case study in what we've been talking about. And the media is just total double standards. It's so pathetic.
Trump tweeted out or posted on Truth Social, Kamala Harris, whose honeymoon period is ending and is starting to get hammered in the polls, just copied my no taxes on tips policy. The difference is she won't do it. She just wants it for political purposes. This is a Trump idea. She has no ideas. She can only steal from me. And Eliana, what we saw over the weekend on X was hysterical posts. Like there was this one, was it Curtis Hook? Oh no, he did not this one. Here's for the listening audience. There's one guy taking a test on the left and writing Trump, no tax on tips. And one guy copying off of that guy and labeled Kamala Harris like in a testing situation. And then look at this one. They're saying this is Kamala Harris at her next rally. It's her wearing a Trump wig. I love this so much. She, I guess if you can't beat him, join him. But there'll be no acknowledgement, Eliana, that she completely copied Trump's homework.
Well, it's quite interesting to take a serious look at this, that this is the one specific policy proposal she's put out to date, and it is one of Trump's policy proposals. Not only that, but this is a proposal, as Emily mentioned, that's aimed at the working class, and these are the voters that the Democratic Party over the past 8 years has been bleeding to the GOP. So if you want to think about what Kamala Harris may try to do, and we're supposed to see more economic policies from her this week, I think that's the way to look at this.
Yeah, just let's go start pouring through Trump's proposals, because that apparently is where she loves all of his proposals. She apparently doesn't like Joe Biden's, but she's joyful. You see, she's joyful, and ignore all those reports about what a nightmare she is to her staff, all of whom have quit. Some Americans enjoy using their credit cards because it can be a hassle-free and secure way to pay. But our sponsor, the American Payments Coalition, says that some DC politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. They say the bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. They say corporate megastores will make more money and you will wind up paying the price. Find out more info at guardyourcard.com and consider telling Congress to guard your card while you're there, too. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.